Hey there, Patty Dominguez with episode 55. Thank you for being here. And today's episode, we have Brandon Birkmeyer from BrandonBrands.com. And one of my favorite topics being podcasting. He is a marketing professional coming from corporate, reinventing himself, repositioning and positioning his business. And he's talking to us today about podcasting, how you can leverage this amazing platform of podcasting for yourself. Many gems in this one, and here we go. Hey there, I'm Patty Dominguez. You're about to discover what it means to position your brand and your business to stand out. This show explores the stories of small business owners just like you who are bringing their message out to the world and impacting their tribe. So if you want to take your business to a category of one status, then hang with me because this podcast shares everything you need to know about how to be more prolific with your brand so that you can have more profits. All right, Brandon Birkmeyer, thank you so much for being on the Positioning to Profit podcast. It's such an honor to have you on.
Excited to be here. I love just exchanging ideas with people, and I know we're going to get some amazing tidbits for your audience today. So let's get going.
And I think what's really cool is that we have a very similar background in the same kind of realm in the corporate. We were talking before I hit the record button just about how you were in the ad agency world for 18 years. And so can you give us about a 3-minute story about your background prior to doing what you do, Brandon?
Yeah, I tell it a lot of different ways, but I think the thing that sticks is that I was the kind of guy that kind of followed the path in front of me. And, like whether it was school or work, I tended to follow the career path. So I got a job out of college in marketing after I studied marketing, and I stayed in that exact same job for 18 years, basically doing brand strategy for businesses big and small. And so after working in this branding and marketing space for 18 years, I started to basically get I was comfortable. I was happy with the life I was living. I had a nice, like high paying agency job, and I was doing work I enjoyed. And I think a lot of people can relate to like where we find a comfort zone. And that's where I was. I found a comfort zone. I found something I thought I was pretty good at. I liked the people I worked with. So I was relatively happy in that. But what happened for me, and I know what happens for a lot of people, is I started to see that, ahead of me, I didn't know if my job was guaranteed. I didn't know that, like I had bosses and mentors that 5 years ahead of me were starting to be freelancers because they couldn't keep work, because at the top of these companies, there's only so many people unless you start your own thing. So the fear ahead of me started to get stronger than the fear behind me, that comfort zone. And I saw it happen to so many people that I realized I needed to step up and build something for me. And now I work with entrepreneurs one-on-one on their marketing, on their branding, on their content. And, I started my own path 2 years ago, and I never looked back.
I love it. And I'm a big advocate for taking that big leap and becoming boss free. And we talked about that a little bit. So just out of curiosity, what's been something that you have found to be challenging that you didn't know until you did become boss free?
Yeah. What's funny is I think the thing that was challenging is I liked having a boss, which might be, counterintuitive to what this show is about. I enjoyed having someone else decide this is what you do every day. I like the comfort of that. I like the idea that I go in, I know my job, I know what I need to be good at. I don't have to figure everything out. I just have to be really good at the thing that I do. And jumping into something where I now have to figure everything out. I have to figure out who is my perfect customer and how do I come up with a product that works for them, and how do I, I'm customer service, I'm sales, I'm business development, I'm everything.
Right, yeah.
So I liked having the structure and the comfort of it. So moving into something that's basically all you and you are responsible for it was the scariest thing. Even in like my marriage, I'm like, just tell me what to do, honey. Just what do you need me to do? I'm not a great guesser. Like, just let me know. So yeah, I think that for me is, the hardest thing is becoming my own boss, setting priorities for myself and determining what's the next biggest move that's actually going to drive my business forward.
Mm-hmm. And the key takeaway there, ladies and gentlemen, is happy wife, happy life. So that's all I heard.
All the time, every day.
No, so I happen to agree, strongly agree, because, and I always equate it to this example. I say, when I was in my corporate job, every 2 weeks, no matter what, I had a paycheck. And when you're an entrepreneur, you have to create new opportunities, create new money, create the situation that you're in, and taking 100% responsibility for it. So in there lies a lot of unknowns. And I think navigating that through, I think builds immense fortitude. And just, I know for a fact, because I quit my job January 3rd of 2013. So I've been on my own for more than 7 years. I can't imagine ever going back, but going through those like dips and valleys of like, okay, I'm boss free and I think I'm really cool. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm accountable for my thing, you know? And so parlaying this into what you're doing now, you help your clients to develop their personal brand. And we were talking about the power of podcasting, which I love, love, love podcasting. I'm a voracious consumer of podcasts. And now you've taken that as one of your offerings, and talk to the folks that are interested, that are entertaining the notion of having a podcast. Why is it powerful in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question. The way I'll start with this, right? When I was working in the corporate space, what I felt was that, at first I thought, you know what, I'm doing a good job. People notice me, they see the work I'm doing, and I'm irreplaceable. At least I tried to work to be. And the truth is, I wasn't. I don't think a lot of us are. If you are working for someone else's business, you are replaceable. And it's kind of like that movie, The Matrix. I feel like we're all a bit part of this system, and like we are just replaceable. Like we are a battery. We're another thing that could just be taken out and replaced. And that really made me uncomfortable. So whether I left the job or not, I think what I realized when I was on my own was that I needed to find a way to make myself stand out and be different, and make myself not the same as everything else, not a commodity, something of value that people need. And to do that, I had to build my own reputation and my own like thoughts and perspective. And what I like to say is I had to find my voice. So I tried lots of things. I tried, writing a blog, writing articles and blogs. I tried recording podcast episodes in audio format. I tried recording videos, going live on Facebook and Instagram. I tried all the things. And what I kept coming back to was the thing that I could do the easiest was have conversations with people. So I'd reach out to people that I wanted to learn from, and I'd ask them to come on and have a conversation with me. And I also had 18 years of experience that I just had all these things I wanted to say. So I would turn on the microphone and I would just blurt them all out. And the podcast gave me a format where I could just very naturally talk and get these things out of me. And in a half hour, I've composed a 3,000 to 4,000 word blog because you talk that fast, essentially. And so for me, the power of podcasting is it's this engine. It's this engine where you can in your most natural context, get all the information inside of you out. And if you do it every day or every week or every month, you use your voice. In the process of using your voice, you find it. And that was the most powerful thing for me.
I love it. And then is this something that you had experience with podcasting, or you found your way as you were kind of experimenting with different types of content creation and delivery? Like you found, okay, podcasting is what I like to do. What I'm very interested in is you saying that you can, in essence, take that podcast and repurpose it, right? So is that something that you kind of fell into, or you found your way to optimize it all?
Everything was like step by step. It was one thing at a time. So for me, after I tried a bunch of things, the thing that I kept like looking forward to doing was podcasting. And I had recorded like 30 episodes, just me talking, not even interviews, just me talking and talking and talking, getting all these thoughts out of me. But as I did it, I realized there's patterns. There's things that I like to talk about. There are things that I say over and over again. And that helped me figure out like what I'm about. What is my message? What do I want to be known for? And it helped me craft those messages, because I think we all need to figure out what is it that makes us special? What makes us unique? What is our position in this world? What do we want to be known for? So to do that, I had to use my voice over and over again. So I crafted 30 episodes of a podcast, and then I realized I really want to do this well. So I hired a coach. I actually reached out to someone who I saw doing like an amazing job in podcasting, having great guests, and I had a great show. I'm like, how did you do this? And he was offering coaching at the time. So I hired him as a podcast coach, invested thousands of dollars in training and equipment, and said, I'm going to do this right because I just know that this is my platform. And I pulled all my 30 episodes down and I started again. Because
wow, you started brand new from that?
I started brand new because I said, you know what? I want to do it like I know this is my path. So I started again, relaunched, and I'm glad I did, because with the relaunch, I put the right amount of attention and focus in it to make it professional, to make it something I was proud of. And then in learning it the right way, I also learned something I could teach other people. So yeah, that's kind of the path I took to get to where I am now.
I love it. And so can you, without having to name names, of course, can you give us a story of maybe a client that you've helped to start their podcast and the results that they've had as a result of that?
Yeah, everyone's got kind of different approaches, different stories, but the type of people I love working with tend to be the people that have businesses that are built around their reputation, around their brand, like they are responsible for their business, just like you and I are. And a lot of them have what I call like one of the three like pillars of a personal brand, which for me are message, which is like the thing you want to be known for, what we were talking about, message, community, and then impact. And community is the piece of it where you're bringing people in as you're creating content. You're starting to form this group of people. If you bring them together, you can actually hear them exchange ideas and with you and with each other. And then you can start to see what problems they have, the things that they're struggling with. And with that, you can say, how can I help them solve these problems, which is what I call the impact piece. And that impact is you finding a solution to their problems. I wasn't trying to be someone who helps people launch podcasts. It wasn't my goal. I was a marketing consultant. I was building marketing plans for small businesses. But in becoming a podcaster and in joining these communities and in starting a show, I had a lot of people keep asking me questions about how do you build a brand? How do you create content and all that thing? And so in bringing that community together, I found a way to help people. And I was like, in creating that impact, I now had this beginning of a personal brand. And to get to your question.
Okay, we're about halfway through with this episode, but I wanted to make sure that you knew about my new Positioning to Profit quiz so that you can discover how to use the key pillars of positioning to give yourself the ultimate edge for your business. It's an assessment, personalized plan of action to overcome these roadblocks that are keeping you from even more profit. So head on over to positioningquiz.com. All right, let's continue with the show.
Which I had to share like the model here.
Yeah.
To get to your question about podcasting. Yeah. What I always find is there's someone missing one of those three steps. So one of my clients she actually has people she's coaching, like, she has clients consistently, every month. And she has a community. She actually has an email list, and she's known in her community for what she does. And what she was missing was kind of the things she's known for. And like, she didn't know how to grow. She hit a ceiling in her growth and said, when we were talking, getting to know her business, I was like, well, why, what is it that is stopping her from becoming known? And it was the message. She didn't actually have a platform, her own channel that she could point to and say, this is the archive of my knowledge. This is my message. This is the thing that I stand for, the thing that I want to write a book about, the thing I want to talk from stages on, the thing I want to shout from the rooftops, or every time I go to a conference, the thing I want to talk to people about, the thing I'm excited about. She hadn't honed that. And so it was a bit of a jack of all trades. And I think a lot of us fall into that. Well, what do you do? I kind of do this for these people. I do this for that person, because you haven't crafted your message. So for her, we really honed in on, let's build something for you that can be the thing you can be the authority in, the thing that you want to be known for. And all the things that around that you can still do other things and help people. But without that third leg, you fall over and you can't grow. So yeah, so with her, the biggest thing was creating a format. And now people don't see her as just the person that she was doing like some agency work. Now she's the person that is known as the conference specialist, whatever it was in her field. And I think that's what a lot of us are looking for, is what is that authority piece that they're like, oh, if you need this kind of thing, talk to that person. If you need podcast growth and branding, talk to Brandon. Like, what is that thing? So
I couldn't agree with you more. And literally, I just got off a call with a client. It's the same situation. Yeah, but I could do this, and because she has such vast corporate experience, I'm like, right. But in the absence of being really focused and claiming that authority and that one thing that you want to be known for, you can't be everything to everybody. And what happens is people get confused. It becomes forgettable. And to your point, I echo the sentiment. You just become commoditized.
Right. Well, think about it. Think about and think about every fitness coach out there, right? I mean, like, it's a huge business, and most of them start by helping people one-on-one. They have some impact. They have a little community of clients that they communicate with. but there's nothing that separates them. They don't have a message that says, well, which kind of coach are you? Why would I choose you instead of someone else? Because they haven't honed that piece of it. They haven't come up with their voice. So I have a lot of fitness coaches with their podcasts too. That's like, what do you stand for?
Yeah,
Do
that's
you
so
have
good.
your model for helping people?
Exactly. It's so key. I mean, we work in the same realm, so to speak, with what we do. And I guess I know that the key takeaway is like be distinct, otherwise you're going to be forgettable, right? And I can always tell when I ask somebody, "Oh, so what do you do?" And they're like, "I'm a business coach and this and that." And you're like, "Yeah, you just literally commoditized yourself." You know what I mean? Like you're just not standing out. So, how can somebody build more crave into the marketing? I thought the example that you gave of your client who is using podcast as almost like a proof of concept of her knowledge base. Do you have any other tips how people can build more of that crave factor in their marketing?
Yeah, I love that crave factor. Haven't heard that before. I love that. The craveability. Yeah.
Mhm.
For me, like you have to start with your engine. You have to create something that is who you are and what you stand for. But then what you do with that is important because a lot of people, it's like you put a billboard in a desert and no one sees it.
Mhm.
You have to drive attention to these things you're creating. So for me, it's how do you then build in this, the process of, you take the content you've created. How do you take that one thing and make it worth your effort? How do you turn that one thing into lots of things, which isn't a new idea, but I think the building the system for that is new. People like will take one piece of content and they might post it to three places. They'll say, okay, I'll take an image and I'll put it on Instagram, Facebook, and maybe LinkedIn or Twitter. And they'll say, okay, that's my content marketing plan. But they haven't actually built a system to want to do that. To do it bigger and to do it more effectively. Like they haven't done the research into like what are the hashtags they should be using and how do you make an effective blog? If you post it on YouTube, how do you effectively drive traffic to your YouTube channel? They haven't done any work to build the systems to either A, create the right strategy behind their content, or B, to create more than just a couple of simple pieces, because it's a lot of time, it's a lot of work, and sometimes it's a lot of money depending on what you're trying to do. So building a system for how do you take one thing you create and make it actually go the distance for you is one thing. And then the second is how do you put it in a place where it can be found? How do you get use the tools the right way so that you're actually discovered? And
Love that.
I think that's the important piece, is having that kind of plan in place.
I love that. And so when you think about that, what are some critical success factors? How can somebody say, you know what, that thing that Brandon told me to do, it works? Like why is that um, key? Like how do they measure? What does success look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone has their own plan, right? But for me, success is that you are creating something that is reaching as many people as possible. Like you're driving some kind of awareness and bringing new audiences to your world.
Mhm.
And to do that, you have to have a plan. And we're not all marketing people. I have the luxury of being like a creator and a marketer, and we're not all there. So a lot of us have to figure out, if that's not our expertise, how do we bring people into our world that can help us with the things that we're not good at? And what I see is a lot of these kinds of mistakes. I see a lot of people going out there and maybe hiring someone like, social media is a pain. I'm going to hire like an Instagram person to post on my feed all the time. And they'll pay,
Yeah.
I've seen people pay 2, 3, 4, 5 grand a month for someone to
Yep.
post pretty pictures on their feeds. And what drives me bananas about it is they're just paying for someone to post. They're not actually half the time getting a strategy. And they're just posting organically, which means that if they only have like 300 followers, only 3% of those people are seeing it. So practically no one is seeing it. So why are you spending all this money for no one to see this beautiful content you've created? So I think there's a lot of things like that out there. If you step one for a lot of people is after you've figured out how to use your voice, you might have to hire someone, if you're not an expert in it, to help you figure out what's the next step. What's the next thing I can do? I like working in projects. Like, what's the next little project I can take on? Do I need help with my website, or do I need someone to help me figure out like a social media strategy? Or is it something else? Like for you, you might have a different stage in your process, but everyone's got something that they have a new project that they should be taking on. They may not know it yet.
I love it. So what would be somebody came up to you and be like, hey, Brandon, tell me, why is podcasting really hot right now? What would you say to them?
I'd say that podcasting is hot right now because for a lot of people, they think they're starting to realize that this is what blogs used to be when like websites got popular. It was like, oh, this is a place where anyone can do it now. Like literally anyone can start a podcast. And that barrier to entry is huge. Like when you know the lack of a barrier to entry is huge for a lot of people, because if all you have to do is buy a microphone or just use your earbuds that you have from the Apple store to turn on your computer and generate, turn on this machine to generate content for you that gets your word out and helps you identify who you are and your message in the market. That's huge for a lot of people, because I'll tell you, writing is intimidating for us. That was the most accessible thing until today. And now that podcasting is becoming mainstream and people are out there using it and seeing the power of it, it's the kind of thing that is a gateway for a lot of people, because writing, again, it's intimidating. It's hard for some of us.
It definitely is for me. I'm like, oh God, I have to get into the mode of sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to crank out 1,000 words. And it's a thing. It becomes a chore versus, and I'm totally agreeing with you, versus getting on a podcast, hitting the record button, and like you said, having a conversation. So it is as easy as that. Once you understand, to your point, having the greater strategy of how to then utilize that content.
Yeah. And I don't start from scratch. I mean, I'm not just randomly, off the top of the dome spewing, knowledge. I sit down and I say, okay, like what's the thing I want to talk about? I actually design out my whole season these days. But when I was getting started, I'd say, okay, what's the thing I really want to talk about today? And I'd at least say, okay, what are the 3 main points of that? Like, what are the 3 things? And if I could come up with 3 things, then it would keep me on track. And I'd post those 3 words on a board in front of me. And I'd say, this is what my center is that I can continue to gravitate around. And I just kind of go through the list. And by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, I just talked for half an hour. And I just wrote 3 things on a wall that I knew were related to a particular subject. And I guarantee you, everyone out there, we think like that. We work like that. Every book is written like that. You open the chapters up. I don't even read the books anymore. I look at the chapters because most of us think in these concepts. And you're like, okay, there's 7 chapters. Like 6 of them are probably the main things they wanted to talk about. Most of it inside of it is just filler. Like, what are they trying to get across to you? And we all think like that. We think in terms of categories. And you can just post 3 little categories up there. You can talk literally about anything.
That's awesome. That's a killer tip in order to really simplify the process of content creation. All right. We are turning the corner, and I have some random questions for you. What are you curious about right now?
Oh, I love that. What am I curious about? I'm always and always will be a marketing nerd. So I am just avidly investigating every channel. So for me, I'm highly curious about TikTok right now. And that's not from like the entertainment aspect, but like from the marketing side of it. I've interviewed a couple of the leading experts in the space to get to like the point of, what do you do as a business, as a personal brand on a platform like TikTok, where they still give you the benefit of throwing eyeballs your way in terms of discovery? It happens to be that when platforms are new or when they're not utilized, if they have more watchers than they have creators to a high degree, then they just give those people a lot more views. So it's a place where a lot of people are watching and just watching. Not a lot of people have the confidence yet to create there. And actually LinkedIn is the same way. A lot of people hadn't created on LinkedIn in forever. People are just watching on LinkedIn. So in those couple of places, if you create the right way and you can figure out the structure of it, how it works and what works for you, you actually get the benefit then of it showing your stuff to a lot of people. So that's the kind of people I've been bringing in to understand those platforms better. Because I like to take it all in, digest it, and then give it back to people in a really human way on my show, Brands on Brands on Brands. That's the whole premise of it. Is you want to do the DIY marketing? Let's go. I'll bring you the experts. I'll talk to you in like very layman's terms and say, this is what you should do today.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Person, place, or thing. Yes, I can say it. Person, place, or a thing. What are 3 things that inspire you?
3 things that inspire me. I love that. Right now, I'm inspired by the people that are out there, like leading the way in terms of just creating content at all costs. They've invested in themselves. They've said, you know what, I'm out there. I give myself to the people. I'm a service brand. People that are leading the way in that in my space and marketing are guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He's the guy that's just showing it, like day to day, like create. Other things that inspire me, I think right now, and this is recording in May, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. I think the people that are out there who, even like are taking their personal steps to like do whatever they can to help. Everyone's got something they can do to contribute. Whatever it is, whether it's just you staying home and not getting other people sick, or you giving a little care in some other way, like people that go out of their way in times of crisis to be responsible and help other people, that inspires me too.
I love that. And then and I think you kind of answered it a little bit, with everything going on, what would make this year a great year for you?
With everything going on, I think for me, a great year is a year when I feel like I've continued to challenge myself. I've continued to grow. I'm inward looking, because as I challenge myself, it means that I have more that I can give to my community of people that I'm serving. So I'm always figuring out what's the next thing I can build that's going to help the most people. So like I started as a marketing consultant, and I realized, if I can help more people find their voice with podcasting, that's huge. But then I'm like, okay, well, now I'm going to podcasting conferences. I'm meeting tons of podcasters. Yeah. And what they're all saying is, hey, how do I grow it? How do I, build my audience? So I'm, nerding out on how do you turn this piece of, one piece of content into a machine, into multiple things that everyone can do. Cause it's hard. We don't have teams of 5-6 people, right? Most of us are doing this ourselves. So it's like, how do you do that in a realistic way? So me continuing to find something that I can give back to other people, make it easy for them, make it easy for someone like you to say, man, how do I get my show to, 10 times as many people? Because there might be someone who's just waiting for your message and it just hasn't reached them because you didn't have that tool. So that's me right now.
I love that, Brandon. So good. And honestly, I don't see podcasting dying down. I think when the first podcast we had was in 2015, everyone's like, it's really hot. It's really hot. And then I just feel like it took a little bit of a dip in terms of attention, because people were putting out really crappy content just randomly. And then they put out maybe 3 shows and then be like, they threw in the towel. But the people that have had the longevity to stay with it are definitely commenting on how much of an uptick the growth of podcasting, like it's just going. And so with that, there's so many opportunities. So I think you're like really prime dead center where you should be in order to really hit that early adopter, contact me. I'm the one who knows how to take that one piece of content and explode it and expand it for your own business. So that's really, really cool. Yeah. All right, Brandon Birkmeyer, how does somebody get in touch with you to find out more about this, what people can do with podcasting and amplifying their message?
Well, absolutely. Like I said, I have free content every week on the Brands on Brands podcast. You could search that anywhere you want to listen for podcasts. If you want to get a hold of me directly, it's brandonbrands.com. Brandon, that's my name, brandonbrands.com. I tried to keep it simple for y'all. And I figured if I say the word brand or Brandon enough times, you guys are going to remember it. So
I remember it now. This is really smart. All right. So all of your information is going to be in the show notes. Thank you so much, Brandon, for sharing your expertise. Your message matters, and it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here. I love that you said that, because that's my slogan on the show is build brands that matter. Got to matter to someone.
I love it. I love it. We're simpatico in that way. That's awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for checking out the Positioning to Profit podcast. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes. And also, it would mean the world to me if you would take a quick moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast player. It really helps to get the word out about the podcast and, of course, the featured guests. And lastly, please make sure to connect with me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm on all of them. And use hashtag positioning to profit so that I can search you out and connect that way too. All right. Thanks so much. See you next time.